Hello, and welcome to my channel. In today's episode, I would like to present events from the year 1994 that took place in the American city of Canyon Lake, California. These events show how an obsession with excessive spending can lead to tragic consequences. I invite you to listen to the story of Dana Sue Gray. On February 16, 1994, Alice Williams, concerned that her friend Norma Davis had not been heard from for several days, went to her house to check if everything was all right. Norma was already 87 years old, so even the smallest fall could have caused her serious harm. Alice knocked on the door several times, but no one answered. She tried the handle, and since the door was unlocked, she slowly entered. The fact that the door was not locked worried her. Norma always made sure to lock it. She only left it unlocked when she was expecting guests, as she had hearing problems. The volume on her TV was always set to maximum, so she might not have heard the knocking. Alice called out to her friend, but there was no response. The house was eerily silent, which was unusual given Norma's hearing impairment. Alice began searching the entire house, knowing that Norma hadn't gone on any trips, as she always informed Alice if she did. When Alice found her upstairs, she initially felt a bit of relief, but as she approached, she realized Norma wasn't sleeping, as she had first thought. Her friend was dead, and she had been murdered. 2 knives were still lodged in her body. Alice immediately called the police, who, upon arrival, determined that there were no signs of forced entry, which meant that Norma must have known her attacker. She never let anyone into her house whom she didn't know. She also lived in a gated community, so the person who took her life must have known how to access the area. The police suspected that someone from the family might have been involved. However, no evidence was found at the crime scene that could help identify the perpetrator. No fingerprints or DNA. The only clue was a tennis shoe print, Nike, size 39. If the print belonged to the killer, given the size, it would have to be either a short man or a woman. The police also noticed that the phone cord had been ripped out. Nothing had been stolen from Norma's house, so robbery was not the motive. An autopsy revealed that Norma, who had been dead for 2 days, had been stabbed 11 times and also strangled. This confirmed the theory that Norma and her killer knew each other. The murderer had an emotional connection to the victim. The police contacted Norma's relatives, and her closest was Jerry Armbrust, the ex-wife of Norma's son, who had died a few years earlier. When Jerry came in for questioning, the police noticed she was wearing Nike tennis shoes, the exact brand and size of the footprint found at Norma's home. Could she have killed her former mother-in-law? It was hard to believe, as Norma and Jerry had a really good relationship. Even after Norma's son died, they stayed in touch, and Jerry often helped Norma. When she couldn't assist Norma herself, like after Norma's car accident when she needed more care, Jerry suggested that her stepdaughter Dana, a nurse, take care of Norma. Dana had cared for Norma for almost a year. The investigators continued to pursue the case, keeping in mind the possibility that Jerry might have committed the crime, especially after they learned that Jerry had been at Norma's house 3 days before the body was found, meaning she was likely the last person to see her alive. Jerry explained that she had only brought Norma some groceries, and since the TV was so loud it gave her a headache. She quickly dropped off the groceries and left without even greeting Norma, who was upstairs. It was hard for the investigators to believe that someone could enter a house and not greet the homeowner. Jerry became the main suspect, and another murder only worsened her situation. On February 28th, less than 2 weeks after Norma's death, another person from the neighborhood was murdered. Friends of 66-year-old June Roberts were concerned when she didn't answer the phone after several calls. It was her birthday, and everyone was calling to wish her well, but no one was able to reach her. When the situation hadn't changed by evening, they decided to go and check what had happened. No one answered the door when they knocked, but they knew where June kept her keys, so they were able to enter the house without any issues. Inside, they found their friend dead, lying on the floor. The situation was similar to Norma Davis's case. There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing valuable was missing from the house. Not even the diamond earrings the victim was wearing that day interested the perpetrator. The phone cord, just like in Norma's house, had been ripped out. The only difference was the method of killing. June had been strangled, likely with the phone cord, as confirmed by the autopsy. However, one crucial detail for the police was that June was a friend of Jerry and her husband. This was the second victim connected to Jerry. At the beginning of March, the police received an important piece of information from June Roberts' family. They had been notified by the bank that June's credit card had been used after her death. It was used to make various purchases, such as clothing, shoes, jewelry, and perfume, as well as payments at a restaurant and a hair salon. Investigators followed this lead closely, and the purchases made with the card indicated that the user was a woman. The police checked every store where the purchases had been made, asking for descriptions of the person. They also visited the hair salon, where the person who used the stolen card had been. There they learned that it had been a short blonde woman in her 30s or 40s, accompanied by a roughly 5-year-old boy. She introduced herself as June Roberts, using the victim's name. The boy, whose hair was also cut that day, referred to her as his second mum. The hairdresser had written down the boy's name and surname in her appointment book, but after checking all the nearby elementary schools, the police couldn't find a boy with that name. On March 10th, Dorinda Hawkins was working as usual in her antique store when a woman entered, interested in buying a picture frame. She wanted to purchase a special frame because it was for a photo of her mother. Since the frames were located at the back of the store, Dorinda asked the woman to follow her to the rear of the shop. Once they were back there, Dorinda suddenly felt something tightening around her neck, a rope or cord, and the woman began strangling her. She begged the woman not to kill her, explaining that she was the mother of 8 children. But the only response she got was to relax, which reminded her of a nurse's voice. Dorinda couldn't understand why this stranger was trying to kill her, especially after hearing that it wasn't for money. When Dorinda stopped showing any signs of life, the woman left the store, taking $25 from the register. However, this time things didn't go as planned for the attacker. About an hour later, Dorinda regained consciousness and immediately called the police. She was able to give a detailed description of the woman, from which a composite sketch was created. By the next day, the sketch was being shown on all news programs. The description matched that of the woman who had been using June Roberts' credit card. For the police, this confirmed that they were dealing with a serial killer. Jerry Armbrust began to suspect who might be responsible for the deaths of Norma and June. It was hard for her to believe, but she started to think that her stepdaughter, Dana Sue Gray, could be the one the police were searching for. The description of the wanted woman matched Dana's appearance, and when Dana last visited her, she had spoken about her partner's son, who had recently started calling her mom. Everything was starting to make sense. Dana must have been the woman who, along with the young boy, was shopping and spending June Roberts' money. She was the wanted murderer. Jerry shared her suspicions with the police, who took her words seriously. But who was Dana Sue Gray? She was born in 1957 in Pasadena, California. She was a long-awaited child, as her parents had tried for a long time to have children, but previous pregnancies had ended in miscarriages. It wasn't until both were 39 years old that Dana was born. However, Dana's mother wasn't an ideal parent. Beverly, a former beauty queen, was described by family and friends as harsh, aggressive, and loud. She also had a tendency to overspend, which led to the breakdown of her marriage when Dana was just 2 years old. After her parents' divorce, Dana stayed with her mother, but over time the relationship between the two became increasingly strained. Beverly wanted to control every move her daughter made, which was the last thing Dana would allow. She wanted to have her own opinion and couldn't stand it when someone tried to impose something on her. When her mother attempted to influence her behavior, Dana acted out even more. She stole money to buy candy, cut holes in her mother's favorite clothes, and wet her stepbrother's beds. Dana misbehaved not only at home but also at school, which wasn't her favorite place. She often got into fights with other students and experimented with alcohol. She didn't do well academically, often copying assignments from others, which led to several suspensions. When her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, she saw the nurses caring for her. It was then that she decided she wanted to help others in the same way, choosing to become a nurse. Beverly passed away when Dana was 14 years old, and after her death, she moved in with her father and his new wife, Jerry. However, she didn't stay with them for long, as she was kicked out at the age of 16. In the room Dana shared with Jerry's daughter, her stepmother found drugs. Her father was so furious that he kicked both girls out of the house. Left without a roof overhead, Dana had no choice but to move in with her boyfriend. She continued attending high school but didn't dedicate much energy to her education. Sports, especially those that gave her an adrenaline rush, interested her far more than schoolwork. Besides typical activities like cycling, Dana loved windsurfing and skydiving. After graduating high school, she still lived with her boyfriend, Rob, who was a skydiving instructor. With his financial support, she enrolled in nursing school, fulfilling a dream she'd had since she was 14. In 1981, she graduated and immediately started working at a hospital. Though she was highly regarded as a nurse, Dana's relationships with her co-workers were not great. She was seen as someone who needed to control everything but didn't want to take responsibility for her decisions. During her relationship with Rob, Dana became pregnant twice, but since Rob wasn't ready to become a father, he convinced her to terminate both pregnancies. She loved him deeply, so she did what he asked, but it was a decision she later regretted. Their relationship eventually fell apart. Dana then reconnected with a former high school acquaintance, Bill Gray. Bill had been infatuated with her since the moment he first saw her, but in high school he had no chance with her. However, it paid off to wait, as in 1987, Dana stood by his side as his bride. Their marriage wasn't as perfect as they had hoped, and one of their biggest struggles was trying to have children. Both wanted a child, but Dana had difficulty carrying pregnancies to term, suffering several miscarriages. This took a severe emotional toll on her, leading to depression. Her job didn't help matters either, as Dana was a midwife, and every day she saw happy women becoming mothers, which only deepened her despair. Shopping was the only thing that lifted her spirits when she felt terrible. Dana bought clothes, shoes, cosmetics, anything she wanted. But the problem was that she spent more than she earned, which led to frequent arguments with Bill. Their debt kept growing month by month. Besides driving them further into debt, Dana began drinking more and arguing frequently with her husband, leading to their separation in early 1993. It didn't help that Dana had already developed an interest in Jim, the guitarist in Bill's band. Jim was the father of a 5-year-old boy whom Dana adored. After leaving Bill and moving in with Jim, Dana spoiled the child by buying him all kinds of toys. Her shopping habit became like an addiction, something she couldn't control. By September 1993, Dana and Bill's debt, even though they were still legally married, exceeded $200,000, forcing them to declare bankruptcy to prevent the loss of their home. The situation took a heavy toll on Dana's mental health. To cope, she began stealing drugs from the hospital, which made her feel better. However, her thefts were soon discovered, and Dana was fired in November 1993, further worsening her mental state. At that time, she needed psychiatric care. In early 1994, Dana came up with a plan that would satisfy her need for spending money while giving her the adrenaline rush she had been missing. Returning to the investigation, once the detectives obtained the necessary warrants, they began watching Dana closely. They saw her indulging in shopping sprees, driving around town in her Cadillac, going from store to store. What they didn't know at the time was that 20 minutes before they started their surveillance, Dana had killed yet another person, 87-year-old Dora Beebe. She had spotted Dora at a shopping center as the elderly woman was leaving a bank and followed her all the way home. Once Dora was inside, Dana knocked on her door, asking for directions. Dora wasn't the type to let just anyone into her house, but when she saw the young woman, she apparently felt no threat and invited her in to check the map. Just like in the previous cases, Dana ripped the phone cord out of the wall and wrapped it around Dora's neck. The elderly woman stood no chance against Dana. After a few hours of watching Dana spend money, the police finally followed. She was arrested at her home, which was then searched. Everywhere they looked, police found items Dana had recently purchased: shoes, perfumes, handbags, and clothes. Among the items, they also found an old pair of Nike tennis shoes, size 39, which matched the footprint found in Norma Davis's home. Dana was taken in for questioning, where she denied everything. She claimed she had found June Roberts' credit card and, due to her tendency to overspend, couldn't resist the opportunity to go shopping. During the interview, Dana also mentioned finding a purse with a wallet and checkbooks inside, though she couldn't remember the exact name of the owner, thinking it might have been Betty Beebe. This was when the investigators first learned about the fourth victim, Dora Beebe. Her body had already been discovered by a friend and reported to the police, but it hadn't yet been connected to the earlier murders. Dana's testimony helped the investigation tie the cases together. Although Dana was arrested on the same day she killed Dora, she had already managed to withdraw $2,000 from Dora's account. She attempted another withdrawal, but bank employees prevented it. Dana couldn't explain how she had come into possession of both one victim's credit card and another victim's wallet. She admitted she knew it was wrong to use them, but claimed she was just taking advantage of the situation. She denied having any involvement in the murders. For months after her arrest, Dana maintained her innocence regarding the killings, emphasizing her mental health struggles, the stress she had been under, and her bouts of depression. She frequently mentioned having suicidal thoughts, as if she were preparing her defense. A year after her arrest, she filed for acquittal on the grounds of insanity. 2 defense psychiatrists evaluated her and diagnosed her with severe psychotic depression, complicated by alcoholism and an unspecified dissociative disorder. They claimed Dana saw these older women as representations of her mother, Beverly, and that by killing them, she was symbolically killing her mother. Prosecution psychiatrists, however, diagnosed her with borderline personality disorder, but asserted that she was sane at the time of the crimes. They noted how she had carefully prepared for the murders, always wearing gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints, indicating premeditation. Dana continued to deny killing the 3 women, but Dorinda Hawkins, the only surviving victim, identified Dana during a lineup. Additionally, a witness had seen Dana entering June's home on February 28. At that point, Dana had no choice. To avoid the death penalty, Dana confessed to the murders of June and Dora and the attack on Dorinda. She described the events in detail, explaining that she had taken her partner's 5-year-old son, Jason, with her to June's house, leaving him in the car while she went inside. Dana knew June, as she had been a friend of her father and stepmother. When June opened the door, Dana asked for a book June had once recommended. After June brought her a book, Dana claimed it wasn't the one she meant, and suggested she come inside to help find the right one. June, trusting Dana, let her in. As June searched the shelves, Dana ripped the phone cord out, approached her. Afterward, Dana took June's credit cards and casually returned to the car where Jason was waiting. Dana never admitted to killing Norma, and there wasn't enough evidence to charge her. Although the footprint found in Norma's home matched Dana's shoe, it could have been a coincidence. On October 16, 1998, Dana was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The only reason she avoided the death penalty was because of her confession. Dana is serving her sentence in Chowchilla Women's Prison, where she is known to be aggressive toward both fellow inmates and staff. She will remain in prison for the rest of her life. Thank you for listening to the end. Until next time.